Kanchan, and thank you, Team Reciprocity, for inviting me to share my professional journey. Um, it's a very rich 39 years of experience. Obviously, I cannot share it in 20 minutes. And like my daughter says, you need several lifetimes to listen to Mama's stories. So I have picked out 3 vignettes from my professional journey, which will probably give you an idea not just of who I am, but who I became or who I intended to become, and kind of gives you a flavor of some of the things, some of the choices I have made in my life. Hopefully, okay. The first story: I was doing my PhD at London School of Economics. Extremely introverted, wanted only to be in teaching in the world of books. I hated people, did not like social contact. So books were a nice escape at that point in time. For some strange reason, I applied to Tata Administrative Service. And I was in a batch of 10. I was one of the people who were selected for TAS. And Rusi Modi himself, I think most of you know, the old timers here know Rusi Modi used to be in charge of the TAS program. And he sent us his private helicopter and had each one of us picked for the induction program. It was a very, very elite experience. TAS is drawn on the lines of Rhodes Scholarship. So it was extremely elite. Day one, we were handed our induction, after the induction program of 13 days, how for the next 3 years we would be moved around the Tata companies for our intense orientation to the Tata culture. That's the program that, the list would be given to us. We could not open the list on day one. We were asked to open it only on day 13. Beautiful induction program for 13 days, where you're put under a microscope, literally, how you hold your glass of wine, what kind of shoes you pair with what kind of dress, how you hold conversation. Every single thing came under the scanner. On day 13, we were asked to open the list that we had been given. So on my list, if I remember correctly, I had Tata Advanced Materials, I had Tata Chemicals, and I had the Taj Group of companies. So Taj Group of companies, if I remember right, it said 6 months training program. So I went to Rusi Modi and I said, I don't want Taj Hotels, not Taj Group of companies, Taj Hotels. So I went to Rusi Modi and I said, I don't want to do induction in any of the hotel properties. So he was a little taken aback because, many of you have heard of Rusi Modi's personality, right? Nobody, definitely not a brat going and confronting him saying, I'm not going to do this. He was not used to that at all. So he said, why? Is that a caste thing? I think moment they realize you're a South Indian, this question always comes up. Is that a caste or a community thing for you? I said, what rubbish? No. It's my personal choice. I don't want to work in a hotel, which is a travesty because now we've opened a restaurant, but this is many years ago. I said, I don't want to work in the hotel. So he said, all right, from 6 months, I can bring it down to 3 months and I can put the 3 months elsewhere. I said, any other company is fine. And I don't want to do even 3 months. So I think by now he got irritated and he said, oh, but you have to do. This is part of your, we put a lot of thought in choosing companies for you, for all our TAS interns. So therefore you have to do this. I said, no, I'm not going to do this. Okay, I will give you 30 days. I said, no, I'm not even going to do 1 day. And then he got really upset and he said, Nandini, this is a deal breaker for me. And I said, okay, it's fine with me. I don't want to do. And I walked out. This shows me in a very bad light, yet I'm sharing this story with you. And I think before I left, I sent a small note to him why I made this choice. And I said, you know what? This is the beginning of my corporate career. This is the beginning of my learning. I want to learn from the best in the field. In the hotel industry, right from entry level up to mid management, it is only women, which is 50% of the population. I don't want to feel I am the best working with 50% of the population. I want an open, level playing field. I don't know how much he understood, but today when I look at my batchmates and I look at, they probably made more money than I did. They probably have lovely apartments in Kaf Parade. But when I look at the kind of experience I had walking away from something like TAS, I kind of pat myself on my back and say, even if it was a bratish decision, even if probably it sounded rude and it sounded ungrateful and it sounded just wrong every sense of the way. I think as far as I was concerned, my conviction was that I wanted a level playing field and therefore I walked away. And I think it stood me in good stead. This is story number one. Story number two, I was working in Joburg. I have to make this statement before I proceed. I've lived and worked out of 63 countries. So one of the countries I worked in, many of the countries were not even on the map those days. So one of the countries I worked in was Johannesburg. And it so happened a colleague's young 4-year-old son was kidnapped. He was a local guy. He was Afrikaan. And he had married an American woman. So FBI was brought in for negotiation process and stuff like that. And I was completely fascinated, how the whole process of negotiation happened. And the child, of course, was released. My boss used to be Dutch. So I went to him and I said, I want to be able to do this. We were a security company anyway, so that decision was easy. So I went to him and I said, this is what I want to do. So he said, yeah, but you need to be trained. So this is an area called crisis management. So he said, if you want to be trained in crisis management, it's an all-round training. It's an all-round physical training, emotional training, intellectual training, training every which way, military training, period. So as part of my military training, I have to say this, I'm probably the only civilian trained in arms at Sandhurst. And as part of this training, I went to Quantico. I was sent to Quantico for 8 months to train in negotiation and what is called HR, hostage rescue. I was part of what was called HRT, hostage rescue team. Hostage rescue is not necessarily a kidnap situation. It is any untenable situation where one person has a distinct advantage over another. So it could be in the context of an organization. It could be a kidnap situation. It could be any untenable situation. So I trained. So at the end of 3 years and 8 months of intense training of every possible kind, my first assignment was to a country called Botswana, which at that time I'm quite certain was not on any map at all. So typically when you go for these negotiations, when you are sent out for these negotiations, there is a buddy system. There are 2 of you who are sent together. One is a rookie, in this case it was me, and the other is a very seasoned operative. So we were airdropped into Botswana jungles, and our job was to negotiate with the local gun runner who was holding entire Botswana to ransom. And not just Botswana, the neighboring countries as well. So we were, our mission was to get him to lay down arms, was to negotiate with him. So he would lay down arms and then, he would allow to be indicted and then we would be on our way. So the first principle of negotiation, if you haven't gotten the guy to do what you want him to do in the first 15 to 16 hours, you have practically lost the deal. We are approaching now almost 70 hours. The guy was an absolute, I don't know what to call it, but we had a Swahili interpreter. We obviously didn't speak the language. Anything we said to him, he just gave us a daft, half-smiling expression. We didn't know whether he understood what we were saying. We didn't know whether the Swahili interpreter was saying everything that we were saying. So by the end of 70 hours, we were at the end of our tether, because for me, it was my first assignment. So I was antsy, saying, this has to end well. For Bruce, who was a 20-year seasoned operative, this was, angsty because, I mean, what the bloody hell? I did 70 hours, and why isn't this guy, coming anywhere near to the table? So at the end of 70 hours, I think we took a little break, and we felt something had shifted in the air. We didn't know what, but we felt there was an undercurrent of something which was not there before. So Bruce and I came out, and Bruce said to me, "Babes, the bugger is thawing. It's just a matter of, a couple of more hours. We will wrap it up and we'll get on the plane and go back home." And I said to him, "No, I don't think so. I think there is something else here. There's something else at play." So he said, "Oh, no, no, no. I'm this 20-year-old seasoned guy. So don't worry. I'm reading the situation right. It's just a matter of a couple of hours and it's all wrapped up and it's over." So we go back inside, and sure enough, the interpreter tells us, "Oh, he's willing to negotiate." And we said, "Thank you very much. But I'm going to imitate how he said, but he has condition." So Bruce said, "Okay, what are your conditions? In any case, you're not in a position to lay down conditions, but what are your conditions?" So the guy said, "He willing to lay arms, he willing to go to prison for 5 years, he willing to do everything you ask him to do, but one condition." So we said, "Okay, what's the condition?" So he said, "He want to marry this lady and produce M-Toto. M-Toto is children." So his condition was that he wanted to marry me and he wanted to have children before he was taken to the prison. Now, this was a complete googly. Nobody expected this. I mean, and no training tells you when somebody personalizes this as a negotiation tactic, what the hell you're supposed to do. I don't think even Bruce knew. I don't think Bruce was ever in a situation like this. And for me, of course, I was coming in blind completely. So taken aback, we didn't know what the bookish reaction, what did the protocol tell us, how we were supposed to react. It took us another 70 hours to explain to this bugger why this lady could not marry him, because she was already married and she already had her M-Toto. So there was no possibility of producing M-Totos with him in any case. So altogether, we spent a neat 5 to 6 days with this bugger negotiating. Why am I telling you this story? It has, I think I'm saying this for two reasons. One, both of us saw, Bruce and I both saw that something shifted in the air. But I think because of his background and his training, he saw it purely clinically by saying the bugger is thawing. Because of my inexperience, but my being a woman and therefore possibly reading the vibe, I said, "No, it's not as simple as this. I think there is more to it. It's not going to be as simple as we walk in and he says, 'I'm laying down arms and jolly well, I'm going to come with you to prison.'" You understand? And for a long time after, Bruce kept going back to the situation saying, "Why did you think it wasn't simple?" And I didn't have an answer. And even to this day, I don't have an answer. Why did I think it wasn't going to be so simple? But I do think it is my being a woman has something to do with it, that I could read between the lines, and say, okay, there is going to be more to this negotiation than the simple dictates of the protocol. Okay. And the second takeaway for me, which has lasted me a lifetime from this story, has been that googlies come at you all the time. Googlies are meant to be unexpected, and they will keep coming at you. How you, I think, gather yourself on the fly determines what kind of a journey you chart out for yourself. Story number 3. We were buying a company in Muscat. We were buying a company in Muscat. And as most of you know, you can't buy companies, you can't run your operations in any of the Arab countries without a local partner. So we were buying this company, and the sheikh, who was, the who was the owner up until that point, was going to come on board as a kind of a sleeping partner. He wasn't going to be involved operationally, but on paper, he was going to be a partner. 3 teams before me had gone to negotiate with him. He was very wily, very crafty, okay? Till the end, till the question of signing on the dotted line came, he was amicable. Everything, all conversations would lead to very, very positive indication that the deal would fructify, people would be able to sign and pack up and go back. Just before signing on the dotted line, he would come up with some objection, something that they wouldn't be able to resolve at exactly at that point in time, and the deal would fall through. So like I said, I think almost over the previous 1.5 years, 3 teams had gone, failed, and come back. My boss was absolutely livid. And he called me and he said, Nandini, you better go there and buy the company and come back. Now look at the mission statement here. You better go there, buy the company and come back. No question of go, try, do your bit, see what you can do. No. Buy the bloody company and come back, was what it was. So I land in Muscat. I land in Oman. Oman airport, beautiful country. I mean, it's what do I say? It's possibly one of the best experiences. I come out of the flight and there is somebody holding a placard in my name. I walk up to the guy and I say, that's me. It says N. Vaidyanathan. So I walk up to him and I say, that's me. So the guy looks at me and shakes his head. So I said, no, that's me. So he said, I waiting man. I said, I'm sorry, but I'm not a man. N. Vaidyanathan is me. No, not taking you. So this is 1999, 2000, I think, 2000 possibly. Oman at that time did not have mobile. So because I insisted that was me, he walked away, he went to a kiosk, he made a call, presumably to his boss, saying there is a lady who insists it is she. I don't know what he told this guy. He came back and he said, okay, come with me. This is a 17-door limo that I am, asked to get into. And he asks me to get into the farthest door because he was very disdainful that he had to carry this woman in his beautiful limo. He takes me to the office. This is a beautiful big office. Parquet flooring. I'm wearing heels. So this gentleman, the sheikh, is sitting at the far end of the room and watching me walk through the length and breadth of the room. My heels are making terrible noise on the parquet flooring. I'm a little embarrassed by that. And I'm a little angry, with the whole encounter. I walk up to him, in the Middle Eastern countries, you don't shake hands. So I said, Salam alaikum. I am Nandini Vaidyanathan. We were supposed to have a meeting. So he looked at me and said, no, not having a meeting. I said, okay. And why is that? Beneath my dignity to negotiate, woman. You please go back. So I said, were you not aware that I was a woman? No, your boss no tell me. He just tell me, Vaidyanathan coming. No negotiation, no business deal with woman. Please go back. So I was at the Hyatt. So I said, all right, I'm going back to Hyatt now. Think about it. I'm supposed to leave day after night. But if you don't want to discuss the business with me, I will leave tonight. So which means you have time till tonight. And give me a call at Hyatt if you change your mind. I will come and we can start the discussion. And I walked off. I called up my boss, Britisher. I called him up and I said, David, didn't you tell him that I'm a woman? So he said, why the hell is that important? I said, obviously to him it is important. And he's refusing to discuss with me. So before I left, I said to the sheikh, sir, I love my job. I love my company. I love what I do. But I don't love it so much that I'm willing to change my sex so I can discuss the business with you. So apparently he called my boss and he said, lady very rude. And she talks sex. So David said, what did you talk sex to him about? I said, no, I didn't talk sex. This is what I said to him. And, he doesn't want to discuss it with me. He said, no, that is his problem. If it is a cultural issue with him, it is his problem. He will give you a call sometime. Calm down now, go have lunch, freshen up. And this guy will, give you a call sometime. 5 o'clock. But don't forget, this episode happened at about 10 o'clock in the morning. 5 in the evening, the reception call. I'm very antsy by then because no call up until now. 5, the reception tells me there is a limo waiting for you to take you to the office. So I quickly got dressed, went. Over the next 3 days, we had the most brilliant interaction. He ignored me completely. He treated me as if I was part of the fixture in his office. Okay. Whatever he wanted to address to me, he would address to a guy in the room, which in turn would deflect and come back to me. He refused to look at me in the eye. He refused to discuss anything at all with me. 3 days, but he was brilliant. I mean, his insights were brilliant. And, every step of the way, it made me move towards brinkmanship, if you know what I mean. I wanted to be so on top of the situation. When D-Day came, he wouldn't be able to find a single flaw to back out, to, bring up and say, no, I'm not signing the deal. So every minute I was thinking for me, I was thinking for him, and I was thinking practically for everybody else in the room. Wonderful 3 days. And at the end of day 3, we were supposed to sign the agreement at 5:15 after he finished his prayers and everything. I'm waiting with bated breath because I'm hoping I hadn't, left a single thing for him to point at and say, no, the deal falls through. He comes, he picks up the pen, he looks at me for the first time in 3 days, and he actually signs the agreement. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, okay, this went through. Is there going to be a catch somewhere? No catch at all. He just did this. He stood up, straightened his fez, and he addressed the wall this time. He didn't look at me, he addressed the wall. He said, limo coming to hotel at 7, please come to my house. Now this was the catch. If you guys have worked in the Middle East, they do not invite anybody home. Business is only in the office. There is no question of inviting people home. So I got a little nervous. I called up David and I said, deal is done. He has signed, but he says, come home at 7 o'clock. What the hell does that mean? So David, in his typical British humor, said, be careful. Make sure he doesn't make you his 100th wife. I'm like, thank you very much. So I go back to the hotel. I was checking out that night. I go back to the hotel, finish packing and everything. 7 o'clock, the limo comes. I go to his house. He has put together a very, very elite gathering. The Minister of Industry was there. The Minister of Commerce was there. The Commerce Secretary was there. Huge number of people, all standing by the poolside. Massive house from one end to the other. Very pleasant evening. I asked him, how many people live in this house? He said, I don't know. The last time I counted, I had 53 wives. So assume each wife I have given 2 children. So that is the number of people living in this house. So that was interesting. So he didn't offer to marry me, of course. We had a beautiful evening and I went and said goodbye to him and I said, my flight takes off at 12 o'clock. In these 3 days, I've had tremendous learning from you, just watching how you go about your business. And it will be my pleasure, to continue to work with you because you're still going to be a partner in the business. And he said to me, tell David, for the first time in my life, I met a man, a real man. And when I said this I took it as a compliment. Honestly, I took it as a compliment. When I said this to David, David got hopping mad and he said, didn't he see what a beautiful woman you are? What the bloody hell does he mean by saying he met a real man? And I calmed him down and I said, I think he was actually paying a tribute to my intelligence and whatever my negotiation capability. And I'm perfectly willing to accept that if it kind of was an ego thing for him to say that she was a woman, but I didn't negotiate with a woman because she thought like a man, I am absolutely fine with it. So in all of this, if you notice, I worked for organizations where I behaved like an entrepreneur. At that time, the word entrepreneurship did not exist in the business lexicon. Either you were an employee or you were a businessman. There was no animal called entrepreneur. And when I teach entrepreneurship, I always start by saying entrepreneurship is not a career choice. Entrepreneurship is a lifestyle choice, is an attitudinal choice. So whether you work for yourself or you work for somebody else, that attitude, that thinking, breathing, living, executing like an entrepreneur, I think is what is important, both in professional space and in personal space. Somehow, for some strange reason, all skill set application is only referred to in the professional space. I have lived my life managing my life strategically as I have managed businesses. And I think I've had a wonderful life because of that. Okay. These three stories, in the introduction, Sankalp said, so when I started Karma, and the only reason I started Karma was because we didn't know what entrepreneurship was. Day one in class in IIM Bangalore, I realized you can't teach entrepreneurship like a management lesson. And I said, I want that real-time experience. I want to be able to talk about how stupid sometimes entrepreneurs are in their decision-making, how wonderful they are in ideating, but how pathetic they are in execution, how brilliant they are in execution, but how much of paucity there is in ideation. If I want to be able to talk about all of these things, I thought that real-time experience outside the classroom of mentoring entrepreneurs was important. As I started mentoring entrepreneurs, I realized that although I was an employee for 20 years, every single role of mine had been entrepreneurial. And I think all I can say is that I was extremely lucky. I think beautiful opportunities came my way, and I think I was very fortunate. The only credit I will take here is that jab अच्छे opportunities मेरे पास आए, I did not turn my face away from them. Brattish that I was and brattish that I am, I plunged headlong into each of these opportunities. And I think because of that, I live a wonderful life. I live a wonderful personal life and a wonderful professional life. And you can imagine at 60, I discovered love. I discovered Tinder love. I met Dominic on Tinder last year during lockdown. And I moved in with him, and we've just started a beautiful Indo-French eatery in Jaipur. Thank you. Over to you for questions.
I think it's only fair if we can give her a big round of applause.
Unmuting ourselves.
Absolutely awe-inspiring, Nandini. Can't.
So inspiring.
You know,
Very
can't express
inspiring.
how I feel right now. And today I feel that this section of 20 to 30 minutes is too short for a person like you.
Absolutely. I wanted to go on. So beautiful.
Absolutely. Astha, please take over.
Yes, I can see a lot of hands. Deepa.
So I had written it also because I wasn't sure if I'll get the chance. When I quit corporate in 2013, I knew because that structure didn't work for me. I wanted to live my life purpose. But then when I quit, did I become an entrepreneur? Yeah, I started on my own, but really it's a mindset. After 2013 to 21, now I feel I'm an entrepreneur, Nandini. So, it's a mindset, and it happens only when it happens. And one of the reasons I'm here is also because I want to build, nurture, cultivate that mindset, even though I'm scared. And even though I do not know the method in the madness. So is reading your book the way to get the step-by-step method in the madness?
Sorry, is there a
Is
question?
reading your book a step-by-step guide to, have that attitude and get the method in the madness?
Right. Let me just quickly summarize what you said. When you talk of an entrepreneurial mindset, what exactly do you mean? I will give you in a very simplistic way what it means, what it has meant to me, and I think what it has meant to all my mentees. As an employee, you set goals.
Yes.
You say, in 2 years, this must be my salary. In 3 years, this must be my title. In 4 years, this must be my responsibility. You set goals. But as an entrepreneur, you define purpose.
Yes.
You understand, you define purpose, because without purpose, you can't make any step which is meaningful. Purpose and goal are very, very different. There is no thin line between them.
That's correct. That means I always had it.
Yeah, but that's the problem. We don't recognize it. That,
Yes.
that's exactly what it is. In a BBC interview, when I was managing director of British Gas, in a BBC interview, the guy asked me, again, a googly, wasn't part of the prepared questions. He suddenly threw it at me saying, Mrs. Vaidyanathan, what do you think is the anthem of your life? What do you think, is your, whatever, how would you define your life? I said, for me, meaning in life is my tomorrow should be better than my yesterday. Can I do things which will make every single move that I make, every minute, can it lead me to a better tomorrow? That's all it is. And what is the key to this? Which is why I said learning is important and not profitability. What is the key to this? That your learning curve stays north. As long as your learning curve stays north, I mean, you can continue to define your purpose. Goals shift. Purpose does not shift. Purpose is, in that sense, written in blood.
Yes.
Goals are not.
Yes. Purpose is in the bones. It's inside.
Correct. Yeah. And it's it's how you feel. It's what makes you get up in the morning. It's what brings a smile to your face, and it is what makes you get angry with the world that doesn't look at things meaningfully.